Let's speak to Tom Bradshaw. He's the National Farmers Union President. It's good to see you. I don't know if you managed to hear what the Minister was saying a few moments ago. Basically, you can come and protest if you want, but you're wasting your time.
Look, I think they simply have to move on this. The policy they've designed is very, very poorly thought through. The foundations of the numbers behind it are questionable. Even DEFRA and the Treasury can't agree on them. And then when we look at the human impact of this policy, they've designed a policy which has got the elderly generation in the twilight of their careers absolutely in the centre of this policy with no way to plan for it. They've given everything to this country to produce the food the country needs, and they can't plan their way through it. That is simply unacceptable.
But it's only the top 4% of the population that pays inheritance tax.
I know the really challenging thing here is that the margins from food production are just so low. These intergenerational family businesses are producing less than 0.5% return on capital. They simply don't have the money to pay inheritance tax. There's always been an understanding, a contract between farming and society, farming and the government, ever since the Second World War. And this Labour government have just destroyed that contract with the changes they've proposed to the inheritance tax.
OK, well, I should say 4 to 6%, depending which figures you look at for inheritance tax. But the point is you have to be very wealthy in order to be eligible to pay.
Our members are asset rich but cash poor. They're working day in, day out. They are the hard-working people of the countryside producing this country's food. They're not making the returns they need. We'd love to pay more tax. If we get proper margins from food production and we end up swelling the Treasury coffers, bring it on. But at the moment, the supply chain doesn't give us those returns that enables us to save the money to pay the inheritance tax that this government now wants to take.
Am I right in saying that the DEFRA Secretary, when he was in opposition, promised you this wouldn't happen?
He did. He stood here a year ago, I think, at a conference in London and said that the government would not be changing agricultural property relief. He then reinforced that a couple of weeks later. This industry has been betrayed. They said they wouldn't make this change, and suddenly they've gone ahead and done it. There's a whole generation that have no way to plan that have been betrayed. Now, yes, if you're lucky enough to know you're going to live for 7 years, there is a way of starting to try and plan through this. But up until now, any cash which has been generated from a farm business has been reinvested to deliver food to production tomorrow, to deliver the food security that Sir Keir Starmer says this country needs. But now, instead of reinvesting in food production, it's going to go into our pensions and into life insurance, rather than investing in the very infrastructure that delivers the food security this country needs.
What's the plan today?
But we will be passionate, but it'll be peaceful. We want to bring the very best traditions of the countryside. We've got 1,800 members meeting with their MPs in Westminster to tell them from the heart what this policy means to them, their family, their farm and their future.
And what if the government doesn't change its mind?
This will carry on. They cannot have a policy in place which has such disastrous human impacts and think we're going to go quiet. We don't know what's next, but I know the membership have never been so united in trying to overturn something in the time that I've been farming.
I was speaking to a farmer earlier at this hour, and he was a cereal farmer, actually, but he was saying no impact on supplies for Christmas, but watch out for the new year.
Look, we don't support this sort of blockading of supply chains, but I completely understand why farmers right the way across the United Kingdom are feeling so angry, so disillusioned about their future, so worried about the elderly generation that they've been working with for years, for decades. This is simply unfair. It's an ill-thought-through policy, and we don't want the people to suffer. We've had amazing support from the public over the past couple of years. Over 220,000 have signed our petition against this tax. We don't want them to suffer, but the government must listen.
Isn't it incumbent on all of us to do a bit more for services like the National Health Service?
We'll very happily pay more tax, but let's do that from the food that we're producing for this country. Food inflation has not kept up with real terms inflation for the past 4 or 5 decades. If we start to get realistic returns from the food we're producing to keep this country fed, we'll pay the tax from that.
OK, is it reasonable to say, as the NFU president, that farmers will continue on this path until the government changes its mind?
Absolutely.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.